If I were Rishi Sunak and I were putting together a to-do list, I suspect that, firing tax avoiders and bullies, maybe having a look at the cost of living crisis, stopping these nonsensical drives towards so-called red tape bonfires that everyone from Archie Norman to James Dyson are now warning about. I probably have quite a lot on my to-do list above, let's ban laughing gas, lads. A politician called Chris Philp, who is hilariously the policing minister, wants a review of nitrous oxide that is being carried out by the Independent Advisory Council on the Misuse of Drugs to be fast-tracked to April because the government cannot act until it has reported its findings. This would be part of the government's antisocial behaviour strategy. Well, I mean, if you're looking for an antisocial behaviour strategy, you could start with Dominic Raab, couldn't you? Rather than some kids. What's the word? I'm going to say chugging. I'm going to say chugging nitrous oxide at the weekend. I have no idea whether chugging is the correct verb. Nos. What, with a s or a z? With a s. Chugging nos is what I'm going to call it. Where would you start if you were keen to address the problems of antisocial behaviour in this country? Would you start with Dominic, Raab and Nadine, Dorries? Or would you start with kids chugging nos at the weekend? It is the most commonly misused drug among 16 to 24-year-olds in England after cannabis, which is, of course, kind of illegal. Although, I mean, it is illegal. Don't do drugs, kids. But the imposition of the laws or whatever it is are rather opaque these days. It seems to depend where you are on what punishments you'll face. So its popularity has grown. It's relatively low in cost. Users release the gas into balloons from small silver canisters, then inhale it. It slows your brain down, slows your body's responses down, gives feelings of euphoria, relaxation and calmness. Okay, there are some negatives, which include dizziness, impaired memory, weakness in the legs, which of course might cause you to fall over, and the Times reports that some fatal accidents have been caused by asphyxia. But, without making light of those tragedies, the same can be said of plastic bags. No one, for health and safety reasons, no one has talked about banning plastic bags. So, two questions here. The first question is, what do you think about this? But I think if you have experience of nitrous oxide. Hey, look, I may just have made an epic misjudgment. I wouldn't come on air and be all or attempting. I probably failed to be funny, but I wouldn't be so light-hearted if we were having a conversation about crack cocaine or heroin, would I? But I'm fairly confident that the gas that women in labour have been inhaling for decades is not a comparable intoxicant to crack cocaine or heroin. But maybe you think it is a problem. And that is where I think you're in a more qualified position than me to talk about this. So is nitrous oxide a serious problem?
I do encounter little piles of these nitrous oxide canisters that the kids are obviously taking, and then they just sort of leave piles of them around the town.
Yes.
So
I'm not unduly troubled by that. I'm more concerned about fly tippers.
Yes, absolutely. But what I do completely get that there are bigger issues in the world to deal with at the moment. But actually, these sorts of issues do affect our small communities.
How?
And because the kids that are hanging around on the street that are bored, a bit vulnerable,
yes,
they're getting hold of these canisters, and they're not only sniffing these laughing gas canisters, they're taking a bit of cannabis as well. So they're bored and they're just taking whatever they can get hold of, to be honest. And
yes,
it is a concern because then they will move on to other things. So I would never, ever I would be so concerned if my child started sniffing or inhaling any gas from these canisters, because I would be so concerned, what are they going to move on to next?
So we've already reached the nitrous oxide as a gateway drug part of the conversation, have we?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yes. But it does affect our communities. It really does. It is a problem.
But how?
Because of...
So, you can say it's a problem because of other drugs.
Yes.
And you can say it's a problem because of rubbish. But,
yes.
the other drugs would still be there if there wasn't any nitrous oxide, and we could just have a clamp down on littering and make sure they put their empty canisters in bins. And when you say it's affecting our community, I'm not quite seeing the signs.
Because we get groups of
But we've had that forever.
I know, but
that's nothing to do with nitrous oxide. I mean, they might. Every generation has a different thing that bored youths congregate around. This is just a new one, so that can't be it. That can't be the reason to ban it. If you want to ban boredom, then you might make some progress. I would prescribe this program, but I don't know that younger people will necessarily be drawn to it. So you can't ban boredom. How does it affect? Because affect my community is a strong phrase, and I'm not feeling it yet.
Okay. Well, we get people ringing in about kids hanging around in sort of local car parks and on street corners or in shops.
When didn't you?
Yeah, it's just these canisters always seem to be part of the problem.
What problem?
Of youths hanging around on the streets.
But they always hang around on the streets.
Yeah, they do.
They always will. They always have. Shouldn't have shut the youth clubs.